Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, you will be given the recent issue of Islam Today, and I would also recommend you as Nawafil, because Wajib is your own books, textbooks to read, but as Nawafil, there are reports about our social Wilaya retreat in Canada that you can read, and also a discussion with our Catholic friends about fairness. So there is one from a Shia and one from a Catholic, plus this report about the social Wilaya retreat in Canada. We had it in Montreal. And we have, alhamdulillah, an online program. Maybe once I introduced you, Kauthar Learning Circle. Is for the people who dedicate 7 hours per week or 4 hours per week to study. So every year we have some retreats, so inshallah you can read there. So inshallah brothers will distribute. So if you are ready, we can inshallah start. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of jurisprudential rules or maxims. We already talked about قاعدة الطهارة وقاعدة السوق المسلمين, the rule of purity and the rule of Muslim market. The next rule that we discuss is قاعدة أصالة الصحة, the maxim of validity. And again, this is very well-known rule in our fiqh, and in many different sections of fiqh this rule is used. It can be in tahara, it can be in salat, it can be in ibadat or mu'amalat. In different parts of fiqh, this rule can be used, and it is also something that you find similar to it even among non-Muslims. The spirit of it can be found even among non-Muslims. And this is why, inshallah, later when we talk about the reasons and the proof, one proof is siraya uqala, the practice of rational people. It has been like this. But before we go to the arguments or reasons for believing in this rule, let's clarify exactly what we mean. What we mean by asalatu sihha في فعل المسلم is sometimes a moral issue and sometimes it's a legal issue. And the second one is important here, but we have to mention the first one because that is important, and also not to mix them up. Sometimes a person, a mu'min, says something, does something, goes somewhere, and there is a chance that he might have done something right or something wrong. For example, he told me something I didn't hear. He could have said something nice, he could have insulted me. What should I think? I should say, inshallah, he said something nice, he inshallah prayed for me, not cursed. Someone goes, for example, with a lady, we should say must be his mother or sister or wife, not that we think bad about that person. Someone went to a pub We should say maybe he wants to ask the address. So we shouldn't think in a negative way about mu'mineen. There is hadith and Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, ضع أمر أخيك على أحسنه. Put the affair of your brother in the best possible position. Means try to interpret it in the best way. حتى يأتيك ما يغلبك من, till something comes that then you have no choice. Sometimes then you cannot deceive yourself because it's very clear. There is no other interpretation. But unless it has become crystal clear, as long as there is a chance, always, even if it is 90% chance of being bad, think it is good. But if it is 100% clear, then you cannot. وَلَا تَظُنَّنَّ بِكَلِمَةٍ خَرَجَتْ مِنْ أَخِيكَ سُوءًا وَأَنْتَ تَجِدُ لَهَا فِي الْخَيْرِ مَحْمِلًا. As long as you find a good interpretation for what he has said, don't think in a negative way, in a suspicious way about the word which has come out of his mouth. So interpret what he says in the good way, as long as there is a way. Okay? So, this is something which is very important, but this is different from what we are discussing. First of all, the book says it is about mu'min and not maybe about every Muslim. Although I personally think that we should try to be with everyone like this, but maybe for mu'minin it's more important and more necessary. But this doesn't bring legal implication. It's a moral issue. For example, if someone's met me, I don't know, he said Salamun Alaikum or he said something bad. I cannot say, Inshallah, he said Salam, so now Salam needs reply and it's wajib for me to say reply. It doesn't bring legal implications. I can say, Inshallah, he meant Salam, but I cannot establish that this is Salam so that I have to act upon it. Of course, you can say Salam Alaikum, but it's not necessary. You understand? So, you assume he meant something good, but you don't need to consider it as that was the case legally. What we mean by asalatu siha is something different. What we mean by asalatu siha is that a person, whether mu'min or just a Muslim, has done something and we don't know he has done it in the way which was valid or not. We can assume that it was valid. For example, we have a mayyit and someone said, I have done Salatul Mayyit. Okay? And you know that he has done Salatul Mayyit, because later I will talk that if you are in doubt that that person has done it at all or not, you cannot say As-Salatu Siha fi Fi'l al-Muslim. But if he says, I have done Salatul, you know he has done Salatul Mayyit, but you don't know was valid or not. Maybe he didn't observe some conditions. As-Salatu Siha fi Fi'l al-Muslim says you don't need to worry. You don't need to investigate. You assume it was valid. Or for example, someone has done zabh. You are in doubt. You say as-salatu siha. Someone has a masjid was najis and we know someone washed it, but we don't know he washed it properly or not. We say as-salatu siha fi fi'l al-Muslim. So any act that a Muslim does and we are not sure whether he did it in a valid way or not, we can assume that he did it in a valid way unless it is proved otherwise. This is what we mean by asalatu as-sihha fi fi'l al-Muslim. What are the arguments? First we mention arguments, and this by itself clarifies more. Then we have few important points. One argument is as-sirah, practice. Siratul uqala or siratul mutasharra. Siratul mutasharra means mu'mineen, Muslims who were practicing, have always been acting like this. You remember we said, if something has always been done by Muslims up to the time of Ma'soom, then this means that Ma'soom was happy with this. They could not have all been doing this without taqreer of Ma'soom at least. If Ma'soom was not telling them to do this, at least Ma'soom must have somehow approved, endorsed it. Or siratul uqala. If something is not only done by Muslims, something that all reasonable, rational people have done it up to the time of Ma'soom, and Ma'soom has not stopped Muslims from this. There is no rad'a. In Siratul Uqala, we must establish that there is no rad'a. Again, this is also hujjah. For example, Sayyid Bujnurdi, who has a qawaid fiqhiyya, there is a quotation. He says, "Inna umdat ad-dalil ala qa'idat as-sihha fi sirat hiya siratul uqala kaffatan min jami' al-milal." He says the most important reason for the maxim of validity is the practice of uqala from all nations and all traditions and all religions. في جميع العصور من أرباب جميع الأديان من المسلمين وغيرهم. In all ages, Muslims, non-Muslims, والشارع لم يردع عن هذا الطريق. And Shara has not stopped them, has not banned Muslims, didn't say we don't agree with them. Ayatollah Khouy rahmatullah alayh mentions the same thing, but instead of saying Siratul Uqala, he focuses on Mutasharra'ah. He says, As-Siratul Qat'iyya min Jami'il Muslimin al-Mutadayyanin ala tartib asar as-sihha ala a'mal al-nas. He says there is established practice of Muslims who are mutadayyan, who are practicing in all ages. In any case, there seems to be no doubt that Muslims and even non-Muslims have always dealt in their social life with other people, assuming that when they do something, they are alert and they are doing it properly. Yeah? You assume like this. For example, let me give you an example about uqala. If you go to a pharmacy and take your prescription, even if you are seriously ill, what do you think? You never say, let me show this to someone else, maybe they gave me, wrong medicine. You assume asalatu as-sihha. You say, this person must be alert and conscious and doing his job properly. We don't assume that it's wrong or it's dubious and I have to investigate, because life becomes very difficult if we don't trust people in what they do. Okay? So this is one reason. Another reason is some verses of the Quran. But please listen carefully to see how they argue from these verses. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Ma'idah, verse 1, among different things, he mentions Awfu bil-uqud. When you make contracts, you must be loyal. You must keep your contracts and don't disregard them. If I told you I sell this, or any agreement between us, we should be loyal to it. Another ayah is the ayah number 29 of Surah An-Nisa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about false ways of transaction. You cannot for everything get money and exchange. But he has exceptions. One exception is إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ تِجَارَةً عَن تَرَاضٍ. If there is a trade, a business, and both parties are happy, then here you can give and take. We cannot, for example, sell haram. We cannot, do many things, riba, whatever. But if it is tijaratan and tarad, means it's a trade, it's a business, and both parties are happy. Of course, other things have to be considered, but a general way of transaction in Islam is tijara. So, the argument is like this. They say, when two people make contract or sell and buy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is valid and everyone should observe it as valid, not just two parties. They say, when Allah is talking to mu'mineen and says that you must be loyal to the contracts, it means the two parties of the contract and other people also. But here some ulama have disagreed. They say it's difficult to make this conclusion. We know that those two people have to be loyal, but the ayah is not talking about other people. Yes, from outside we know that if someone sells and another person buys, I should also assume that this has been transferred. But this is what we know from outside. The ayah's focus is on two parties of the transaction. So, we go then to what we have as extra dalil. Of course, there are some hadiths which are also there, but there is an extra dalil here that Sheikh Ansari rahmatullah alayh, our great scholar Sheikh Ansari, in his book on usul, which is known as Fara'idul Usul, normally they say Rasail, he says, Al-Mustafadu min tatabbu'i fatawa al-fuqaha min mawarid kathira. Fi mawarid kathira. He says, if you do tatabbu, investigate, fatawa of fuqaha, in many cases, what you would be able to draw from them, أنهم لا يختلفون في أن قول مدعي الصحة في الجملة مطابق للأصل. You come to this conclusion that fuqaha have consensus. They don't have disagreement that in general we accept the word of the person who says he has done something properly. So it's like a ijma. There are so many fatawas that our fuqaha have done, have issued based on this. This is not something controversial, and as I said, Ayatollah Khoui says this is sirah qat'iyya of mutadayyanin throughout the centuries. What is important for us is not to prove the principle because it's obvious. What is important is to discuss details, conditions. For example, a very important question. If someone has done Salatul Mayyit, for example, and we see he has done Salatul Mayyit, and we know he knows how to do Salatul Mayyit, or he says he has washed the body of Mayyit, and we know that he knows, but still you are in doubt. Certainly here you can do as-salatul sahha. You can exercise as-salatul sahha, yeah? Because he knows how to do it. If someone doesn't know, and we know that he doesn't know, can still we exercise as-salatul sahha? No. If you know that he doesn't know, then you cannot say, inshallah, he has done it properly. How can he do it properly without knowing? We are not gambling. We say someone who is a Muslim and it seems that he knows. But if we know that he doesn't know, no. If we are unsure, here they say, still we can exercise it. Because we assume that every person is doing things properly unless it is proved otherwise. So, in two cases you can apply it. When you know that he knows how to do it, or when there is a chance that he may know. So we say, inshallah, he knows. But if you know that he doesn't know, then you cannot apply as-salatul sahha. This is one point. Another point, as-salatul sihha fi fi'l al-Muslim is different from qa'idatul faragh. Qa'idatul faragh is, inshallah, what we discuss later. But you are familiar. For example, if after salat you doubt, you say, did I do ruku or not? Did I do tashahhud or not after salat? What do? You ignore it. You don't pay attention, yeah? Now you doubt about your hajj. You ignore it. Even if you are in Mecca, but your hajj is finished, then you say, was my tawaf right or not? This is qa'idah faraq. So, anything that you doubt after performing it and finishing it, we ignore it. We have another qa'idah which is qa'idatul tajawuz. It's different from qa'idatul faraq. That is, for example, you doubt in ruku and you are in sujood. You doubt in sujood when you are in tashahhud. Still you ignore it. That is qa'idatul tajawuz. We will talk about them. So sometimes you pass that, sometimes you complete the action. But that is different from qa'idatu as-salat as-sihha. What's the difference? There are two differences. First, qa'idatul faragh, who is doubting? Yourself. About what? About your own action. So in qa'idatul faragh, you doubt about your own action when you have finished it. In as-salatul sihha, you are doubting someone else's action, not your action. This is one difference. Second difference, in qa'idatul faragh, action must be over. In as-salatul sihha, can be after action is finished, or it can be during. Like what? I see someone is doing Salatul Mayyit and they have not yet finished. Still I can apply as-salatul sihha. It doesn't need to finish and then I doubt. I can have doubt even when they are doing it. Imam al-Jama'ah has come. Has Imam made wuzu or not? Maybe Imam came without wuzu. As-salatul sihha. Still he has not started salat, but we can do as-salatul sihha. But qa'idatul faragh is after finishing you doubt. Okay, so there are two differences. One is that qa'idatul faragh is about your own action. As-salatul siha is about another person. Second is qa'idatul faragh after the action is over, but as-salatul siha can be after or can be during the action or even before the action. Another question. As-salatul siha fi fi'l al-muslim means you know someone has done something, or you see is doing something, and your doubt it is about what? Validity, about sihhat. But if you are not sure that he has done it, then you cannot assume that it's valid. For example, we know someone has done Salatul Mayyit, but we don't know how. You say, inshallah, is valid. Unless you know that person is not aware. But if by him saying that we have done Salatul Mayyit, you have still doubt that they have done it, you cannot assume that it has been done properly. So we say, As-salatu siha fi fi'l al-muslim. So you have to establish fi'l, and then if you have doubt about validity, you ignore it. But if you don't know that person has done it or not, you cannot ignore it. Okay? Now I have a test for you. It's a bit difficult. I am a musalli in this masjid, and a place was najis. You don't know me. Sometimes you know me and you are sure. When I say I have done it, you know that I have done it. But you don't know me. I tell you I have washed it. You cannot apply as-salatu siha. Why? Because the action itself is doubted. Okay? But if caretaker of masjid says I have washed it, then we accept it. Why? Not because qa'idatu asalat as-sihha, because of another rule that we have. Man malaka shay'an malaka al-iqrar bih. Whoever is in charge of something, if he says he has done it, we accept it. So if you don't know me, but it's my home and I say I have washed it, you have to accept. I mean, you can accept. It's my home. But masjid is not mine. So I don't have yad over this here. If a person is asked to do Hajj niyabatan, and he says that I have done it, if you know he has done it and you doubt it, you do as-salatu siha. But if you don't know that he has done it, then fuqaha may use another rule, and that is man malaka shay'an malaka al-iqrar bih. You have made him responsible for this. Now you have to listen to him. He doesn't need to prove to you, bring films that I have done this. You make someone wakil to sell your home, and he says I have sold it. You accept it because you made him responsible for this. Or someone said I have divorced my wife, because he has control, he can divorce. So we don't need to ask him prove this to us, because this is something that it was his responsibility, his authority, and he was able to do it. But if someone else says that these man and woman are divorced, we don't accept from him. Say, you don't have any say about this. You cannot say, as-salatu siha. He says, there is talaq, there was talaq, and it is valid. No. We don't know talaq has taken for. But if the husband says, or the wife says, I am divorced, but here, of course, there are details to whom. For example, wife cannot say to the husband, or there are some differences. So, inshallah, in future, but I don't know if you have time, but in the discussion which we had in Hose, which is online, it's more detailed. We have these two rules that might be helpful for you. One is man malaka shay'an malaka al-iqrar bih. One is qa'idatul iqrar, admission, confession. Iqrarul uqala ala anfusihim jaiz. If someone admits something against himself, this is valid, not in favor of himself. Okay? So if someone says, this lady is my wife, that lady doesn't need to listen, but he has to pay for his nafaqah, her nafaqah. Ala anfusihim jaiz, but not for his interest. So these are technical rules that we can apply, but for the time being, we cannot apply asalatu sihha fi fi'l al-muslim when we are in doubt whether the action has taken form or not. This is the general rule. In some cases, we can have another rule to establish that action was okay, and that is when the person who is in charge says, I have done it. That's different from asalatu sihha. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, we finished this qaida, and inshallah we continue next week. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. If we can start with questions now. One question from the sister side, if they have any. We'll go to the gents.
Sheikh, thank you very much for Qa'adat Isalat Sahha. I just want to clarify something. If I come to the center, and there is a mayyit, and amongst all those who have gathered to recite is a mu'min, is a Shia brother. But amongst all those who have gathered together, there is a Sunni imam, a Muslim imam. Now I know Qa'adat Isalat Sihha, if I have the doubt whether he has done it or not, I take it he hasn't done it until I've proven it. But this Sunni alim has recited Salatul Janazah. He says that himself, others say that, so the action has taken place, I am convinced by it.
Yeah.
My question is, do I take it is not right because it is not according to my madhab? And I have to repeat, or, I mean, this is whether it is mayyat or nikah or anything. Does it have to conform? And then it brings me back to the question that it is salat al-sihha fi fi'l al-muslim or fi fi'l al-mu'min? That I'd like to.
Yes, very good question. Sometimes we have condition of iman. Then here we have to establish. For example, Maraja say, Imam al-Jama'ah has to be mu'min. Okay? There's a discussion here. Then what about we say our prayer behind our Sunni brothers? These are two different things. We as Shia should have imam who is Shia. But if there is a Sunni Jama'ah congregation, we can join them. These are two separate things. So if you look at Risala, they say Imam al-Jama'at should be Shia. But we can join Sunni Jama'ah. But we cannot make, say, okay, in Istanbul, we have Sunni Imam because of Wahda and unity. No, that's different. So, if the condition is Iman, then automatically someone who is not mu'min is not valid. But if the condition is not iman, for example, zibh, condition is not iman. Of course, some maraja, for example, for zibh in Hajj say it has to be mu'min. Yes. Some say it has to be mu'min, but some say Muslim is enough. I think Imam Khomeini used to say it has to be mu'min. Yes. Yes. But if it is Muslim and I don't know, he knows our masala, it's enough. But if it is mu'min, no. So you have to see, if Salatul Mayyat Imam is Sunni for Shia, I don't think Maraja would accept. But you can check your marja. Because this is different from the issue. But for example, zib, no condition of iman. Yeah?
Any questions from the ladies' side? We'll open up to the gents as well.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I just need some assistance understanding the concepts of qalb, the soul, the nafs, and knowledge naql, because I keep getting confused between all of these because they're quite interrelated. Thank you.
Yeah. When we say soul, or when I say soul, because this is the way I use it, I mean human soul, because soul sometimes can be nafs nabati, nafs hiwani. We have vegetative soul, we have animal soul, but when we say soul normally we mean human soul, which is used in contrast to human body. We have body and soul. Soul is the same as a spirit here in this sense. Our soul has different dimensions. Part of the soul, or one dimension of soul, is understanding. Understanding again has different ways. Part of it through concepts. So mind is that part of soul which is responsible for conceptual understanding. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't say He has mind, zihn, because His knowledge is not through concepts. So mind is for understanding conceptually. Heart is responsible for our emotions, feelings, responsible for intuitive knowledge, for knowledge which is innate, also for our traits of character. Aql is the faculty for understanding which helps us to understand conceptual things, but also aql has the ability to go beyond that. So aql is like your guiding power. Aql is hujjah. Aql is never betraying. Aql is never misguiding. What about heart? Heart, if it is in God-given condition, is also good. It gives you good signal. But heart is changeable. If heart is corrupt, it can misguide you. You think of something bad and you feel good about it. People who are bad, they enjoy hurting people. I told him something that she cannot or he cannot sleep tonight. He's very happy. So, heart is changeable. Heart can sometimes loses sensitivity or can even become opposite. Not only does not understand good to be good, thinks something good is bad and bad is good. You know, there is hadith that a time comes that not only people don't do amr ma'ruf and nahy munkar, they find ma'ruf to be munkar, and they find munkar to be ma'ruf, and then another time comes that they do amr bi munkar. So heart is changeable, but aql is not changeable. But the thing is that heart is the control room. Aql can be listened and respected. Like you have very good minister, very wise, very nice. You can listen to your minister, you can put it in prison. Aqli maghloob wa hawai ghalib. In Dua Sabah. Yeah? My aql is defeated, aql is in prison. My Hawaiian nafs now has become minister. There has been a coup. So these are few things that you asked about. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. There was one question posed online from last week's session.
Yes.
I can mention it. So you mentioned about the Muslim market.
Yes.
The question is about a Muslim country, and the examples given were such as Saudi Arabia or Dubai. If you were to go to these countries and buy meat from either the butchers or the restaurants,
yes,
do we need to have any sort of inquiry about the meat being halal or not?
We have to see what happened to his Khashoggi. Then we can talk about Saudi Arabia. I'm joking. So, Muslim market, you can trust unless you know that they are careless. You know, if you know, for example, you know, we said someone is selling alcohol, someone, you know, for example, if you know that they import meat, you know, and you know that they don't care about halal, they don't supervise, they don't, you know, check. But if you don't know, they are Muslim, they import, but maybe they check. They say we check, they say there is stamp. You don't need to investigate if there is a reasonable chance that they have done it properly. But if you know, that's another thing. Or you know that they are careless, that's another. But we don't need to question Muslims just because they have imported. For example, in Iran, they import meat, but they send ulama and they supervise, you know, they go to the slaughterhouse, they see that the butchers are Muslims, you know, they check. So just to be imported doesn't mean that they don't check. But if there are signs, evidence that make you feel that they are careless, then that's another issue.
Last question, please, and then we'll have to end it.
Of course, ihtiyat is good, but we don't want to make it necessary for people, yeah? So it's better always you buy meat from people that you know, you trust, they are, you know, practicing, but we cannot make it necessary for people. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salaam alaikum.
I think that was my question in terms of even though we don't have to, is it better to just avoid if you're not sure?
Yeah.
It is for the soul, right?
Yes, it's better to be buying from places that you are sure for different reasons. One is that this money should go to mu'minin, or practicing Muslims at least, yeah? Secondly, if this is not halal, it has some impact. Although it's not that strong that would stop you, but it has impact. So it's better to do ihtiyat, but because Islam is a religion which is easy to practice and we don't want to make life difficult for people, so Islam says if you buy from Muslim market, you can assume it is okay. But ihtiyat is good if it doesn't put you under difficulties, lots of pressure. Because I can tell you something, So I say, if you buy meat which is not halal, but you buy from Muslim, sometimes I buy haram meat. This is obvious haram. Okay? So I go to a butchery and I say, I don't bother about halal and haram. This is, hygienic meat, and I buy and eat. This is obvious haram. But sometimes I do all my religious requirements and say Muslim hand and I buy, and it is haram. It has some impact on my soul. But this is not equal to one ghaibah. Even if every day you buy from this Muslim who is not careful, it's not like one ghaibah. So sometimes people put so much energy on making sure that this is halal, or this is tahir, which is important. I don't want to underestimate it. But how much energy we put on not lying, not backbiting, not doing zulm? That's destructive. If this makes your heart smoked, that burns your heart. That's a big difference. Sometimes smoke comes to your heart, sometimes fire is in your heart. Haram is fire. Yes. Why you don't like them? You don't like them because they are bad people, or you don't like them because personal problem? No. If they have done bad to you, but they are not vicious people, it's good to eat from their food, feed them, to reconcile. But if they are vicious people, then of course you try to keep distance, but not completely cut off if they are your family, members, because you have Silay Rahim. But many times these are personal issues. They are not vicious people. I am not good with them. They are not good with me. Yeah? This is not good reason to stop.
Thank you very much. I think we'll close it there. Just a few announcements, if you can bear with me. We've been asked to advertise that Sheikh Safta Razi is going to be in town next week. He'll be holding a couple of sessions in the annex. The 2 days are to be confirmed, I think Monday and one other day, between 7:30 and 9:30. But stay tuned for more updates with that, perhaps on the Hujjat website. Another thing is that the logistics of setting up the hall and tidying it up have changed a bit from previous semesters. So just a request to the gents, if a few of you can stay behind to help us. So the instructions are pretty much like this. The tables, we have to fold them up and stack half of them in the back of the gents and half of them in the back of the ladies. The flip tables, we need to stack them in stacks of 5, and then we'll sort it out from there. And the chairs by itself, they just need to be in rows at the back where the senior citizens sit. So if we can have any help with that, that would be appreciated. And just a reminder, next class is next Wednesday, inshallah.
Inshallah. Did you distribute?
Yes, so the Islam Today magazines have been distributed. I think they've all been given out. If there's anyone who needs any more copies, perhaps we can ask Sheikh Shomali for more copies.
Yes.
There's one more he's willing to give away. And feel free to ask any questions at the end. Ahsantum. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
I think they didn't. You got?